Welcome back everyone. So there we had a detailed history of Taif City. You get to find out so much about Taif City in that particular report. Of course, there is a lot more that you have to explore down in Taif City. There are so many attractions, but yes, we got to know mainly more about the history, and we get to know that Taif City is a city which has been very loved by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him too. And we got to hear about the history as to why it is that Taif City is surrounded by this particular fence, and of course why the people of a Taif City are so very much loved. We heard about the Ottoman Empire, which has also passed through the Taif City, and that is why this city is so rich with its history, with its culture, as well as the breathtaking sights. And of course, who has not heard about the amazing food produce of the Taif City, as well as the beautiful roses of a Taif City, because these are the local roses which are produced in a Taif City, and of course it is really famous for those roses, as well as one of the top manufacturers of the world's topmost quality rose perfumes and rose water. We are going to be talking a lot more about the beauty of Taif City and its unique attractions. But for the moment, we have our wonderful guest who's joining us in tonight's first edition of your program, Summer on KSA2, which is in its fourth season, coming to you live from a Taif City. We have with us in the program today, from the National Wildlife Research Center, the General Director of the National Wildlife Research Center, Mr. Ahmed Boug, and we are going to be having a very interesting time with him, finding out more about the unique species which are coming back to life here in the city of Taif, and how it is that they are working on wildlife conservation, as well as we are going to find out more so about the unique features of a Taif City with Mr. Ahmed Boug. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and welcome to this evening's edition of our program.
Alaikum salam. Thank you very much.
We are very much privileged, happy and delighted to be having you with us this year again. And we have so much that we want to talk to you, as well as so much that we would like you to be sharing with our viewers as well.
Sure.
So first of all, sir, we know that Taif is beautiful in its natural beauty, and we know also that, sir, it has a lot of natural wildlife occurring as well, of many of them that you have at the research center. Now, first of all, sir, could you just give us an idea about what the National Wildlife Center is about?
All right. First of all, I would like to thank you and thanks the second channel and Saudi TV for giving me the opportunity to be with you this time. The National Wildlife Research Centers, it's located about half an hour south of Taif City, and it's belong to the Saudi National Wildlife Commission, Saudi Wildlife Commission. The center activities, it's to take care of the endangered species, indigenous endangered species, breeding them in the captivity and reintroduce them back to the wild.
Why is this important? Why is it important that you take these species from the wildlife, breed them in the center, and then release them back into the center?
Some of the indigenous endangered species, they are already extinct from the wild.
Okay.
And some very few individuals remain in the captivities. That's why we have to breed them in the captivity, and then we make programs to reintroduce them back to the wild.
And is this successful? I mean, do you see an increase in the population of the species?
In fact, we have four main programs for breeding indigenous endangered species.
Okay.
Arabian oryx,
Okay.
Hubara bustard,
All right.
redneck ostrich, and Arabian leopard.
Okay.
So for the Arabian oryx, we start quite early in 1986. At that time, they were extinct in the wild, and the numbers, it was about 50. So now we have around 1,000 all over the kingdom, and they already reintroduced back to the wild in two different reserves belong to the National Wildlife Commission, Saudi Wildlife Commission in Mahazat al-Sayd, which is in Taif region,
Okay.
and also in Uruk Bani Ma'arad Reserve, which is in the northwestern corner of the empty quarter. So we reintroduce them back to the wild. They are successfully living independence in themselves, and almost we spend about 70% of our strategic plan.
Wow, it's amazing. And of course, I know, and I'm sure that Sam will agree with me, that say that the wildlife of any country is very important for the tourism as well. Since we are here promoting tourism in Saudi Arabia, very briefly, how do you think that the wildlife is really important to tourism, and how do you think it attracts people from all different parts?
Right, so I think the wildlife, it's not exist inside the protected areas or the research centers, but the wildlife, as you know, it's exists everywhere.
Exactly.
And mainly in Taif city, as it is the location, it is in the mountainous area. So the biodiversity of Taif city, it's quite big. So if you go to the mountainous area like Al-Hada or Al-Shaba, you will find a lot of the biodiversity of the plants, the birds, and the different animal species. So I think people, they don't only enjoy the events and the recreations in the recreation sites, but also they enjoy the wildlife outside the protected areas and the wildlife in general. Some people, they wish to go to the national parks, or they go to the high elevation sites, and they enjoy, you know, to be in the forest or in between. We have quite unique habitats usually in Taif. For example, between Al-Hada and the Shaba, this is quite the only area in the whole Kingdom of Saudi Arabia where are the two juniper species joined together in this area only. If you go to the south part, you will find the southern juniper, which is called Juniperus excelsa, and if you go to the north part of the Hijaz Mountains, you will find the Juniperus fionicea. But the both species, they met in Taif region.
Amazing, that's amazing.
Indeed, Mr. Ahmed, let me quickly ask you first. You said there are about 1,000 Arabian oryx, which are, let's say, here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now, do we have 1,000 minus the two which were gifted by the custodian of the two holy mosques to the American president, to the previous American president, or those, including those, we had 1,002?
In fact, we are so happy to have the good population and the vital population for the Arabian oryx, not only to reintroduce them back to the wild, but also to support the wildlife projects in neighbor countries, in GCC or other Arab countries. And of course, the gift of the custodian of the two holy mosques, it's come
very
from
unique
Mahazat
gift,
al-Said.
actually.
Yeah, so it's come from Mahazat al-Said, and in fact, the program is very successful. And what I'm talking about, 1,000 between the protected areas, in both protected areas where we reintroduce them in Mahazat al-Said and in Uruk Bani Maarid, also in our center and in the private collections too.
Indeed.
So in fact, the population we do have in Saudi Arabia for the Arabian oryx, it's the most diverse in genetic point of view in the world. So we are gathering here in our research center in Taif more than 90% of the genetic diversity of the Arabian oryx in the world.
Wow, that's wonderful. Now, Mr. Ahmed, we're going to talk a lot more about wildlife as well as your center's speciality. But now, let me ask you this, because we are coming from our home city of Riyadh, which I would say is, I mean, when we talk about Riyadh city, I would say it's the hub of modernity within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And of course, being the capital city, it is very much the heart of Saudi Arabia. And once I start talking about our city of Riyadh, I would not stop. So let me ask you before that about your city of Taif. I mean, how is it that being a resident of Taif city, you see the city of Taif, and what would you say to our viewers especially to bring them down to the city and to see the unique features of it? So what is it that Taif city is close to your heart for? What do you see so special in this city?
I've been in Taif since 20 years ago, working here in the National Wildlife Research Center. And Taif is really a unique city, not only because it's located in the mountainous area, but also Taif, it's very close, as you know, to the holy city, the Mecca holy city. So most of the visitors who are coming to Mecca from the east, they come through Taif. They enjoy the good atmosphere in Taif. But also Taif, it's quite unique for the production of the national rose. as you know, and this is quite specific race of rose in Taif. And a lot of people, they used to come during the springtime, I mean during the season, to enjoy the ceremony of getting the rose ceremony, and also getting the rose oil and rose water. But also the Taif, it's quite unique from the ecological point of view. So the location in the mountains, it's give Taif more diverse in the biodiversity. So a lot of people, they come to enjoy the habitat, the different habitats in Taif, different animals, plants, you know, and they go to these the most famous recreation sites in Taif, like Shafa and Al Hada, and we have the highest peaks also. It's about 2,700 meters from the sea levels, full of the juniper forests, and also a lot of wildlife there. So people, they wish to have picnics also in the wildlife, enjoying the wildlife with picnics.
Absolutely.
There.
And Mr. Ahmed, actually, it's wonderful to have you here in today's first edition of our program, because Diana, as we talk about the year 2010, now 2010 is the year that everybody knows is the year of football. 2010 World Cup is happening, but at the same time 2010 is the year for biodiversity as well, because a lot of countries are paying great attention to their ecosystem right now, and also to a lot of species which are getting affected because of climate change. There is going to be a big world summit on climate change as well, and it is affecting life and people by so many means. So 2010 is a very important year in terms of biodiversity, and we all have to be thinking more about the ways by which we could actually protect our ecosystem and also protect our environment.
I do agree 100%, and with Simon saying that biodiversity is really increasing. One very important question I want to ask you, sir, since you are the General Director of the National Wildlife Research Center, and what my important question to you, sir, is that how can we raise awareness when it comes to educating, or let's say alerting the public about the importance of preserving the wildlife?
Sure. I think this program is part of the public awareness.
Media could
what
be
we are talking about the wildlife in Taif and in general in Saudi Arabia. In fact, the biodiversity in Saudi Arabia, it's very unique, and also it's very rich.
Yes.
So we do have in Saudi Arabia more than 2,250 flowering plant species.
Yes.
And many of those species are endemic species. Also, we have about 88 mammal species, wild mammal species, and most of them, they are endangered species. So Saudi Arabia also about 528 bird species, migrants and resident birds. So some of them, they are also endemic bird species. So I think the biodiversity in Saudi Arabia, it's very important and very unique. So a lot of people, they used to travel, in fact, from different places in Saudi Arabia to enjoy the wildlife. As you know, that's part of the Saudi cultures. That's during the springtime, they go abroad to the remote areas to enjoy the spring. And the flowering plants and the good atmosphere. So that's in fact part of the biodiversity. So biodiversity, it's not only related to the wildlife, but biodiversity related to all the diversity of the life in the country, including even the agriculture diversity and the other life diversity. So Saudi Arabia, I think it's very rich and very unique, and as you know, that's the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It's part of the international agreements for the biodiversity, and also we are participating. We have a lot of events in our Saudi Wildlife Commission for the participating the international community in the year of the biodiversity.
If we can see, sir, we're looking at what's actually happening here in Qalb al-Taif, in the heart of Taif Mall, and as you can see, this is part of what happens here in the mall, where family and friends can always gather up with the youngster actually skating aboard, and this is actually happening right now. So lots of fun, lots of excitement happening here in the heart of Taif Mall, and we do hope everyone who's in Taif please do come join us here in the mall. But coming back to you, sir, very importantly, one question one very important question, which is what causes these species to be let's say extinct, or let's say what happens, what causes them to be endangered, for example?
In fact, there are many reasons for that. The habitat destructions, overhunting, overgrazing, poisoning, sometimes it's happened. The development when it's happened without taking care of the wildlife, you know. And I think now with the new regulation of the kingdom, we are coming back to the right way. So to taking care of the different endangered species, breeding them in the research centers and reintroduce them back to the wild. Also the protected areas playing important role of this kind of protections, because in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia we do have up to now about 16 reserves all over the kingdom. And it's about 85,000 square kilometers. It's almost 4 to 5% of the Saudi lands. So this the Saudi Wildlife Commission selected in different habitats in the kingdom from the marine and terrestrial lands. So we are coming, inshallah, in the future to protect about 10% from the Saudi habitats. And also, you know, this kind of protections give a chance to the wildlife, plants and animals to get the chance to breed well. And also the protection in the protected areas, also in some of the protected areas we do have programs for reintroduce those endangered species.
That's excellent. That's very encouraging actually to know that whenever we have endangered species, there are steps that we can take to make sure they don't go extinct.
Absolutely, Diana. And with this, actually, one thing that is coming to my mind, because I mean, as Mr. Ahmed made it very clear to us, that biodiversity is not only in terms of, let's say, the wildlife species, but it is in terms of agriculture, the marine life, and our ecosystem in general. So now, following at Taif city, as we are going to be moving on towards the western region in Jeddah, which is very, very famous and popular for its Red Sea. It is known as the Bride of the Red Sea, and so many people go each year there for underwater diving, and they get to enjoy the marine life of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, of the Red Sea too. But at the same time, Mr. Ahmed, I would like to seize this opportunity as we have you with us in tonight's edition of the program, as following Taif when we go to Jeddah. I would like to give you the opportunity to give a message to our viewers as to when they go for undersea diving, how they are not supposed to hinder and let's say bother the coral reefs, because a lot of people as souvenirs, once they go undersea diving, they like to break a little bit of a piece of the coral reef and gift it to their friends and to people when they are visiting them as, let's say, a souvenir from their diving trip. So how is it that we could possibly urge our viewers and the people who are watching us not to do this, not to, let's say, bother the marine life once they are going undersea diving, and how they should not really spoil the beautiful reserves of nature which we have in Saudi Arabia?
Sure. I think the best souvenir the divers they can take back home, it's the pictures.
Yes, indeed.
And the enjoyable time they spend under the water. But the professional divers, usually they knew, and also they get in the courses of diving courses, usually how they take care of the marine life. So if they destroy it, you know, like destroy the coral reefs and they take back home or whatever, or hunting the different species of fishes or any other activities which is really harm and affect negatively to the marine life, that's it will feed back negatively to them, because next time they will see less surprising areas, you know. So I think my message to the divers, or even the people who are enjoy the snorkeling or even enjoy the beaches in Jeddah city, they have also to look after their garbage. They have to do not throw it in the sea. They have to take it back to the right place to put it. Also, they have to take care when they are in the sea, diving or snorkeling, to do not also disturb the marine life. As you know, that's also we have some protected areas in the Red Sea and also in the Gulf, in Saudi Arabia, in Farasan Islands and Al-Gamari Islands. But many important sites in all along the coast of Saudi Arabia, there are many really hot spots for the wildlife.
Absolutely, indeed. And I mean, one of the interesting things, Diana, that I believe a lot of people would not know about is that every time somebody, let's say, pulls and breaks a portion of the coral reef, it takes years and years for it to come back to the original way as it was. So I believe that that is the biggest damage that somebody could do actually to the undersea life, which is so beautiful and so splendid.
It is. I mean, coral life is very important to the sea itself, and of course to balance out and everything. But of course, very importantly, I was just thinking about with the wildlife, let's say, research center. How can I say? I'm sure you have seminars and conferences where you would have other experts coming in from different countries to join in with you and to discuss different ways of improving the center. So how important is it so that you guys communicate and you have lots of more conferences and more seminars with international experts on this issue?
That's good. About 2 years ago, in 2008, we held the international workshop about the mass mortalities of the animals, which is caused by the dehydration and about the severe weathers in the remote areas, mainly in the protected areas. So that's when we invite overseas experts. They came over. But in fact, the Saudi Wildlife Commission signed the Memorandum of Understanding with Taif University. Okay. And just last Wednesday, we had a group from the students. They work on wildlife subjects in Taif region with their professors, and they present their subjects in our Wildlife Research Center. So we think that's part of the participations between the Wildlife Research Centers and the academic part of the Taif University. Also, the National Wildlife Research Center used to receive 3 schools every week from the Taif schools, and that's during the studying time. Also, a lot of visitors, they used to come either from Taif or from Jeddah or from Al-Baha, from areas around, to visit us in the center, in the National Wildlife Research Center, or in the protected area. The only things we are really welcoming the people who are coming in groups, but we just ask them to arrange the visit about a week or 10 days before they come. Very important,
yes. I do agree. I do agree, especially when you have people coming to visit the center and when you have people coming to see firsthand about what the center is doing and about the wildlife, especially here in Taif, that can really change their perspective, and actually it's much more better than reading it off, let's say, books or brochures or pamphlets. And I really believe, sir, that with you opening the doors to, let's say, tourists, let's say, for example, students coming to learn more about the wildlife, this can be a learning experience for them as well.
Sure. In our research center also we have the audiovisual department. We produce DVDs about wildlife and about our activities, and that's include, of course, part of the public awareness activity. So we distribute, in fact, these DVDs to the different schools, either in Taif or in different places in the kingdom.
Have you seen any response, sir? Because I believe we're going to also have one of your colleagues coming in a bit.
Mr. Olivier Copé.
Mr. Olivier, exactly, who actually is with the audiovisual department at the NWRC. But have you seen, sir, any response, any feedback from, let's say, the DVDs that you produced, the books that you produced on national wildlife?
In fact, we used to receive a lot of calls from the students, but when the students, they come to the center, we thought after the visit and the discussions, they come out different.
Okay.
You know, and we would like them really to carry these messages, I mean the wildlife message or the eco message to their parents at home.
That's excellent.
So this is in fact our target. When we are doing that with the kids in the schools, we are targeting also to continuing at home.
That's excellent. That's very
That's
encouraging.
a great measure, definitely, Diana, because we have most of our population which is below the age of 30. So if we start from the school-age children, that is the largest number of our population. And if we start to educate these children about wildlife and about the importance of biodiversity and how it is that they could contribute towards protecting their environment and habitat, so that we would be able to pass it to the generation next, would be a great maneuver. And I believe that the Wildlife Research Center is already doing it, so we are very glad for that. Now, other than that, sir, let's say talking about Taif city, let's get back to talking a little bit more so about the city. We know now the unique features of Taif city from you, and the Wildlife Research Center would be one of the very important places that the people should be visiting once they come actually to the Taif city, because I believe that the work which is done over there is truly unique. Other than that, we spoke about the Rose Festival, and I would also like to hear mention the beautiful summer festival which is going on actually at the King Fahad Gardens, as well as there is another location which I am forgetting.
Also garden, yeah.
King Faisal Gardens, where they are running the summer festivals, where people could be doing a great deal of shopping actually in the tent souk, or if you would like to call it by the Arabic name, it's the Souk al Khaima, which is actually one of the unique highlights of Taif city as well. Diana and I came across a similar tent, the Souk al Khaima in Abha as well, but the one in Taif has its own uniqueness, and you can really get a major brush of the true culture as to how it used to be in the old times as well, because we are very much accustomed nowadays in the modern Saudi Arabia with the malls like the Taif's Heart Mall, one which we are sitting in, which is a unique masterpiece, which includes the amazing architecture put aside with all the beautiful facilities that the mall has to offer, a unique food court and a true fabulous shopping experience, not only for the ladies but for the whole family, so that the kids have the entertainment area and the ladies get to enjoy the shopping time while the gentlemen could be enjoying their lifetime with the cafes and the amazing Wi-Fi system that they have. So all they could do is bring their laptop around and have a great time. But Souk al Khaima would be a unique experience for you to share with your children, as well as there are circus going on, as well as a huge festive atmosphere that you are likely to come across. So that would be a place that Diana and I would seriously recommend to you. Visiting the Rose Factory in a Taif city would be a great experience for you as well, an experience which you would not find in any of the other cities of the kingdom, and that is an experience actually that we have to experience for ourselves as well, Diana.
That is true. Taif has so much to offer you guys, but with this, Dr. Ahmed, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us and really opening our eyes to the National Wildlife Center here. We will be coming to visit you very soon, inshallah, so that we can see firsthand about the beautiful work that you guys do. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you. Of course, that was Dr. Ahmed Boug, who's the General Director of the National Wildlife Research Center here in Taif. We'll be coming back to him, and we hope we'll give you an idea more about the research center. But right now we're going to go to a very exciting part here in the mall, where we're going to actually be joined with Faris and Firas, giving away exciting prizes. Of course, we're going to go right to that. What's going on there with you guys?